So you've finally made the very hard decision to start a business. But how do we go from this idea and creating this amazing company and these amazing products to explaining that and communicating that to our audience in a way that it will be well received and make them want to work with you? Well, branding is the key to that. And today I have a guest who is going to help you guys to create those stories and create those brands so that you can tell your audience exactly what it is that you do. Because buy my thing and a logo is not it. Okay, so I want to welcome Fungi. Hey, love, say hi to everyone.
Hi, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me, Lishy.
Yes, and I'm excited to have you. We fairly recently met. You came to one of my Led by Faith events, and the thing that really stood out to me is how you transform the way you interpret your background experience and how you've decided to create this business. But I don't want to spoil it for everyone. I want you to go ahead, tell everyone exactly what it is that you do.
Yeah, of course. So I am the brand experience specialist and founder of Salted Branding. So I work with faith-led founders and service-based businesses to make sure that their brand reflects how awesome they are and is effective at communicating to their target audience and moving them from that place of curiosity about them to commitment to working with them. So that's what my business does. I will help a business owner with their messaging and the way they sound, all the way to the way they look, their website and their visuals, so that everything is working to move someone to that place of wanting to work with them.
Yeah, messaging is definitely everything. And it is an area where I feel like people do not spend enough time talking about all the things that really goes into building a sound brand. And although we are going to do that here today, instead of starting there, I want to take it a step back and I want to go into the beginning of Salted Brand, right? I want you to tell our audience about how you got to this place of entrepreneurship and what you were doing before.
Yeah, so I have wanted to start a business for some time now, but I did not really know the best place to start. I have a number of different passions and interests. My background is in industrial design. So I studied industrial design for my undergrad, and then grad I did design for social impact. So I knew I wanted to do something design related. And but then I also love food. So I like explored that too for some time. And I'm still in that space, but it's just kind of on pause now. But I started my business about going on almost 3 years now. And around that time, I was teaching digital media at a high school, and I was teaching only one class and like subbing um other times when people needed a sub. But I was just like, I don't know how teachers do this. That's a lot. And I was also in a place where I'm like, if I keep on waiting for like the perfect timing to start this business exactly the way I want it to be, then it just may never come. So I definitely took a leap of faith, prayed about it, made sure that I had God's okay to start things, and then went ahead with starting my business. And my business is all about making sure that people are communicating things in a way that really shows their value and reflects their value, because that's something that I'm that person who like will look at a brand and give someone my 2 cents about what's working and what's not, and it just kind of like click like, why don't I just make that my business? Like I'm already like making my business to critique people about what they're doing right or not in their branding. So yeah, it just made sense to focus on branding and helping people really, make sure that their image is communicating the right things. It wasn't always focused on faith-led founders. And like going back to food, that's kind of what I started out focusing on. But over time, I realized like, do have that fake angle within my business. Even the reason I'm doing it is because the way I feel about a business owner who has something awesome but isn't communicating it clearly is like the scripture that talks about having like a light under a lampshade and putting a bowl over
Mhm.
it. Like that's like to me, that's like the exact same thing. Is like you have this gift, you have this thing, but like there's this distraction from just how awesome you are and how you communicate it. So yeah, so that's kind of the beginning and
Yeah.
and where I
When
am.
you say distraction, that is the definition of 2026 for me. It has been just one thing after another, and there is nothing more distracting than the state of the world and just how uncertain things seem to be right now. And that was another reason why I wanted to have you on the show because there are a lot of people out there right now who were in positions that they just knew to be stable. They got and chose these careers because they wanted something that would provide for their family. They wanted something that would provide an opportunity for a reliable retirement because Social Security ain't it. It's not a whole lot of good living you're going to be able to do on that. And I'll be honest, I personally don't even have high hopes that it's even going to exist by the time that I want to retire. And yet, these people who've worked so hard to, reach the corporate ladder or to sustain as a teacher a job that is very thankless a lot of the time are now in positions of unemployment or uncertainty. And I love that you're a person who chose to transition into entrepreneurship. And I've been finding that actually as a common thread. There are quite a few successful entrepreneurs that I know that I had no idea how they started actually was in teaching. So I think there is something to that. So if you are one of those audience members out there who is just feeling like there's just too much out of my control, I want you to look at who's standing in front of you right now. She is a living, breathing person who is proof that just because you have been in a structured environment of 9 to 5, you can still transition into entrepreneurship. And it doesn't matter how long it's been. It doesn't matter if that was a dream that you had in college of what life would look like for you, or if it was a dream that you had 20 years ago. You can take that leap of faith as well. And I know many of you listening may notice the melodic nature of her dialect here, and that is because my girl is from Cameroon, right? Senegal?
Yeah,
And you've
Cameroon. Yeah.
also lived in several other US states, and I want you to share with the audience how your just experience being a traveler and being from Cameroon, how does that impact you as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so I grew up in Cameroon, moved to Senegal when I was like 10, was there middle school, high school, then Virginia for college, Georgia briefly, and then now I'm in Philadelphia and I've been here the longest. It's like about 13 years now. And I feel like everywhere that I lived fit the stage in life that I was in perfectly. So people are like, which one where do you prefer living? And I'm like, they all kind of worked for where I was in life. And it it just has given me so much exposure to like different, apart from like the different culture that I grew up in, going from Cameroon to Senegal, completely different culture. And then to Virginia, like, that's again the whole different continent, completely different culture again. And I feel like all of that just feeds into having a broader view of people, like being able to like empathize with people and like their cultures and their different backgrounds. Like there's so many ways in which we approach things differently, and there's a lot of like background based on where you're from and just your life experiences. So yeah, if anything, it's just given me an open mind in how I approach people and how I talk to people.
Yeah, you are a person who I know to be one who can see the story that is developing and what it is that someone is building. And I want us to talk more about that aspect of your business. Now, you have put so much thought into the name of your business. So, talk more about that and why you chose the name for your business.
Definitely. So it goes back to the scripture about being the salt of the earth and being a light. And our calling as Christians and as disciples of Jesus is to be the salt of the earth and to be a light. And even going back to the whole idea of branding being a way for people to, it's kind of like removing that lamp, that lampshade rather, so that the light can shine. So that's why I named it that. And that's who I aim to be as in my business, is to bring be like the seasoning, be the salt that kind of draws out the flavor. I like to use that analogy a lot. Like salt is there to like pull out flavor, to preserve, to enhance what is already there. It doesn't really it's not about like adding new things. It's about pulling out what's already there. And that's like the approach with anyone I work with. Like we already have so many skills and so many gifts. It's really just the way we package it, the way we communicate, the way we show other people that we can help them. It's all about serving other people. And I know a lot of business owners are afraid to sell and to like put themselves out there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is what you're called to do. And this is not like when we think about it as like selling and getting things from people, then it becomes like, oh, I want to do that. But it's like, no, you're sharing your gifts with others. You're giving to people. You're being of service. So just helping people change that mindset is what my brand is like. Even the name Salted Branding is all about. It's like, no, you are enhancing. You are pulling out flavor. You're bringing things to people and not trying to get them to buy my thing. Like that's not what it's about. So yeah.
No, I had to turn my head because that's so true. There are so many people who are truly called to do a particular work, right? And they're really great at what it is that they do. But then they get online and it's like the me show. It's buy my thing, buy my thing, buy my thing. And without realizing, they're developing a brand that is giving an air of desperation.
Mm.
And you, for whatever it is that you want to say about it realistically, most people are naturally deterred by that appearance of real desperation, right? Because, or at the very least, you can admit that that does not give you an impression of someone who is giving good quality in what it is that they do, right? So I want you to talk a little bit more about what are some of those branding mistakes that you see happening with businesses.
Mistakes. The biggest one right now is all the AI sounding scripts. I can go into a list of, all the mistakes that a lot of brands you do, but like the biggest one that we are all seeing it is the obvious AI written scripts like that, like syntax of text. That like it's okay to use AI. We all use it.
Right.
It's more of the intentionality and the rereading what AI has given you and being like, okay, let me add more of my personality. Let me make it sound more the way I would speak. So that's the biggest thing that I'm seeing is a lot of people just being like, okay, that looks good, copy paste without the, okay, is this the way I would say this to someone if I was talking to them directly? Because we can tell when when the human touch, when the personality is missing. So that's a big thing. And I'd say also just making it super easy for someone to understand what you do and how you help them. A big one is like if I go on someone's website and like all the like the way we would look at websites, right? We just kind of like scan through. No one's really reading all the text, no matter how much we want to like really tell them, like this is who I am and this is what I do. But using those headers to give the meat of what you do, but there's a lot of like the headers being like, welcome, next steps, like just like a lot of things that don't give value. Um, and considering how we read nowadays with our short attention spans, like just giving people the message right off the bat in a way where they can understand, okay, this is what she does. Okay, this is how this person can help me. These are the things I need to do, or this is the problem that I'm experiencing, and they get it. It's just sounding like you would sound if you're talking to them face to face.
Those are two huge ones. Two huge ones. I smiled the whole time because I'm like, yes, it's the same for me. Those are two of the biggest issues that I see a lot of times. And it's actually become one of my bigger pet peeves, and I never knew this would be a thing, but I hate when I get an email or I see a post and it's got like 11 million emojis because clearly you've used chat and you haven't trained it not to do that. But and especially when if it's a person that I know and it's like you've never used an emoji in your life. I don't think you could find a single one of those on your phone. Like what it actually ends up doing is having an impression of just inauthenticity. If
Yeah,
that's not how you talk, that's not how you think, that's not what you're saying, and it ends up leaving a person feeling like, I mean, honestly, if you haven't taken the time to read it, why should I?
right.
Like I said it. Like that's the truth of the matter. If you have not taken the time to read through this thing, yes, you took the time to create it, but you did not take the time to make sure it was quality. And I need people to realize that like AI is one of the most powerful tools in recent history that we have had. The ability to mass produce content has never
Mhm.
been easier. But at the same time, there is a responsibility to make sure we are also producing a certain level of quality as well. And it's not as difficult as you may think. We're not saying you have to line by line critique everything. At the very least, train your AI a little bit better. Let's not just take the base model, fresh off of the subscription. Let's actually try to train our AIs to better mimic our tone and how we speak. And that I'm giving you guys gold right now. This is a pro tip from a marketer. One of the main things that I do for every last one of my clients is make sure that we create tone documents that mimic their voice and tells the AI how to do so, how they speak. And it's a pretty sizable document, but when I tell you the quality comes out so different. I have written things because I've got several clients I've written books for as a part of me helping them with building their sales funnel. And when they've read passages, they have broken down in tears because
Mhm.
the words that were written really and truly represent how they feel. Now, that's
Mhm.
not because I live rent free in their head. I've got too much to do for that. That is wholeheartedly because I simply took the time to train the AI in their voice, in their tone, and with their story. So, if you take nothing else from this conversation, let's make note of stop overusing these emojis because you're making Lachey mad, okay? And, and let's make sure that we're taking the time to make the text humanized because
Yeah.
it's blatantly obvious that you didn't read over that. You just put in, right, here's this event, write me a flyer and copied and pasted the very first thing that came up. So sorry, I don't want to get too much on this.
And
Part of
it's
that.
actually a great time now for brands because you can be the person who does not sound like AI, and it's
Yes.
refreshing when you're going
Yes.
scrolling through Instagram and everything is like, oh, not this, not that, but and just sounding the same. Like you
Yes.
can be the one who just sounds like yourself and stands out. like really stands out from everybody else in
Authenticity is the
business.
name of the game. It really
Yeah.
is right now. And it goes to video as well, which is another thing that I want to talk about because there are a lot of people who are very hesitant to put themselves on camera. And we had got to this place where it started off where it was like just having a cell phone and walking down the street and talking, and that was okay. But then everyone started getting these really nice studios and the lights, camera, and it just became very intimidating. Like if you wanted to be a YouTuber or a podcaster, you needed to invest into all of this equipment, and that has been a happy byproduct of the AI era. Is that now it actually works in your favor when you've got the little shaky camera and you're truly just walking the dog outside, or you're doing a podcast and it's just you and your video camera and having this conversation, because people have trust issues at this
Yeah.
point. The way that, like, I used to be really good at spotting an AI video. Nowadays, I mean, there are movies that I've been waiting to come out. And with all my favorite actors. And it's not even a thing, but it was someone's great idea that they had, and they invested nicely into the AI. But I think that that's definitely a plus. So video is another way that you can kind of expand your brand and really kind of put a face and a name to the business that you're building. But I want you to share with the audience what are some other ways that a person can build their brand, because a lot of people have a misconception that once you get the logo, you're kind of done and you're good.
Mhm. Yeah. So it always starts with the foundation, right? Like the heart behind the brand. Why are you doing what you're doing? What is it that you do better than anyone else? And it's not like, oh, I am the best marketer or branding person. It's like, no, there's something before you even decided to frame it into whatever service it is. There is something within that triggered like, "Oh, I can do this," right? Like, and what is that thing? Because that is something that you can take and position your whole brand around, right? So being able to get to that foundational step of like, what is it that I do better than anyone else? Like, what's my zone of genius? And why am I helping people with this thing? Why is it that I want to offer this service to people? Going back down to that heart of the business or heart of the thing that you want to do, that changes how you show up. It changes everything.
Yeah.
From everything from like the way you sound to your brand colors goes back to like, okay, what's the core of what I am doing? So yeah, so every time that I start with people, it doesn't matter if they're like, oh, I just want like a logo and colors or I want a website. It's like, no, yeah, we can do that. But before we do that, let's get to these to the heart of your business. Let's have a session where I really understand you. And in that, you really get to understand yourself a lot more in terms of what you want to do with your brand.
Yeah, it completely changes every aspect of your business. And a lot of times people will think, because it's such a base level thing, it's less important. And they don't really realize that it's the foundation to everything. A lot of clients, because I offer the business development as well as the coaching, and on both ends, this always comes up. They think that we're supposed to just jump right into the marketing. That's the first thing that we're supposed to do. But it's like, bull stuff in, bull stuff out, right? Like whatever you put into the marketing, it's going to determine your results. There is a very big difference if you put out a marketing flyer that looks like everybody else in your niche, right? I mean, the same colors, saying pretty much the same stuff. It doesn't have that who really behind it, felt in the visuals, felt. And I had a contractor, as most contractors, they go with red, they go with blue, and that's it. And we chose like a lime green and a purple to like give it that pop of color, and it just makes them stand out in just about any room, because the majority of the trade shows that they go to, it's like a sea of blue and a sea of red, right? So it just visually makes it stand out. Now, I would like for you to share with the audience some tips or advice you have about just color matching and color theory when they're trying to create these things? What are some things that they should be wary of?
Mm. Yeah, color theory is a lot of fun. Looking at the different colors and the way they uh what they say about you. So there are a lot of tools, free tools, like Adobe has a free tool where you can go and put colors, like it has a wheel and you can look for colors that are either like opposing or, that um what's the word I'm looking for? Complement each other.
Hmm.
That's a good thing to play around with. I would start with thinking of the way I want my audience to feel. So that's like all around my brand. Like, okay, what feeling do I want to evoke through my brand? And then also looking at what colors evoke help evoke those feelings. And then also think of yourself, right? Like what is the message that you want? What is the service that you're offering and what's the message that you want to tell people? Because um you can say like, oh, I want to evoke these feelings, but if your service is like the complete opposite, and then like you can find a color that evokes those feelings, but in the context of say like you have a food business, right? And you want people to feel a certain way, like excited, and then you say, okay, I'm going to use like this like office blue or electric blue or whatever. And sure, like that may be kind of like excited or like more so like authoritative, but in with the context of it being like a food business, it's not appetizing. So finding
Right.
that balance of like, okay, I want like excitement or to evoke trust or whatever, but I also know that these colors can clash. So maybe I can, tone the color down a little bit so that there's a nice like happy medium. So thinking of those type of things so that you're thinking of your brand as a whole and also looking at the competition so that you're not looking like the next person in that industry.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I'm so glad that you shared that tool, the Adobe tool, you guys. That was another pro tip. Okay. I use that for my business too. When I am researching colors and all that. And I do know Canva has a
Yeah,
simplified
Canva
version
has
as
one too. Yeah.
well. Totally free. These are free tools that you can use to help you elevate. Okay? This is let this be the year of elevation. Let this be the year that we no longer allow ourselves to fade into the background. That is one of the number one reasons why so many businesses, it's not the only reason, but it is one of the top reasons why businesses do not make it past that year 5 mark, because they are not doing enough consistent activities to help them to stand out in the marketplace, right? So if you don't have a pen and paper, rewind this and write that down, okay? Adobe, Canva, use it for helping you with color theory. Now, I want to shift gears a bit because you have developed a business that is truly meeting your audience where they're at in the offers that you've put together. So I want to talk about for a second the way that you have structured your consulting agency. And this is an important conversation because, as we started off talking about, there are people who are in that space right now that are just like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I know this ain't it, right? I know that I cannot rely on my current circumstances to really be around in a year, right? And even if it could, I'm not happy. I don't like it, right? But they're not quite sure what that would look like. So share with the audience how you actually structured your agency.
Yeah. So I start with that, going back to that foundational piece of, okay, let's talk about what it is that you do, what you enjoy, who you're trying to serve, uh, again, what you do better than anyone else. I start with just asking a bunch of questions. So I will tell someone to start there, like ask yourself a bunch of questions about what it is that you're trying to do, what you enjoy, uh, who you want to serve, the people that you have served, what were the things that they said, because there's so much information in the way someone else describes you versus the way you describe yourself sometimes. So just going back to those things and gathering all that information, and then from there, pulling out what it is that your differentiator is. So that's what I do for people. I start with that piece, and then from there I create like a whole document for them that says like, okay, this is what makes you different. This is what your unique position should be. These are the next steps that you should take to reach the goals that you want to reach in your business. From there, from there, I take them through either like creating the whole brand, where it's, you know, creating their strategy, their messaging framework, writing their copy, their website logos, all those things, or I do a brand position intensive, which is just, okay, now let's focus on taking that positioning, uh, turn that into your messaging, and then also turning that into a strategy to market, to reach your clients so that you aren't just like saying, okay, I'm taking these things and updating my socials and the way I talk about my business. You're also taking them and now going out and talking to people and posting the content or doing whatever it is in a way that works for you, because not everyone wants to do, you know, what everyone else is doing for marketing. So you have to find the thing that you can do that is sustainable and that is enjoyable, that you can actually make it fun and do that. But with some sort of structure and some way of measuring, like, okay, what's working, what's not, and doing, you know, different adjustments where you need to. So that's usually how I work with people, is finding out what they need and then building their brand around that. And for for the person who is in the place where they're like, okay, I don't feel secure with current events in my job, and I need to figure out what to do to, you know, start a business. Like, what is it that I can do? How can I use my gifts and make that profitable? I What I recommend is, I did this for myself too, like creating a list, like a table. One side is everything that you're good at, all of your skills, everything. Think of roles that you've done, things that you do naturally that people come to you to do, things that you like, even content that you consume a lot and you just have a lot of like knowledge in there in your head about it. Like, just think about all those things, and then the other column put everything that you're passionate about, and then start to like pair things on both sides of the list and say like, okay, how can I combine this passion with this, and what would that look like, and really explore it until you have a short list and you can narrow it down to something that you feel like, okay, I can do this. But yeah, really thinking about pairing your passions and your gifts. I know some people say like, oh, like business is not necessarily about your passions and whatnot. I'm like, you can create a whole business around things that you're
Right.
passionate about and be
Right.
successful. So,
No, that's very true. I Granted, it's not a must, right? I don't think the CEO of Hanes has a passion for underwear or socks, right?
right.
But it is a tool that gives them the money to do maybe some of the things that they are passionate about. But I want people to understand that, and I think it comes from, because most of our jobs are things we do because we just want the paycheck, right? We don't
Mhm.
usually, most people are not lucky enough to have a job where it's just like, this fulfills me. This is everything. I love it. I'm living my best life in the job itself, and I would do it for free even if I wasn't getting paid. So like, most of us don't have that level of passion for the work that we do. And it is so possible to actually live that life in your business. And I know for me, that did not happen until I took the time to really ask myself, what is it that I actually like to do? What is it that I'm actually passionate about? What do I actually get joy out of? Because I myself had got to the point, been in entrepreneurship now for I think about 4 or 5 years full time. Been doing it for years beyond that, about 15 years in the industry. But I got to the point a couple years ago where I was just about ready to just leave marketing, because so much of it has gotten so toxic and so gross, and just I just could not. It was like sucking the soul out of me to complete campaigns because the passion just really wasn't there. I knew all the tricks of the trade to make profiles grow, but I just did not enjoy that work. And when I took that step back and I asked, what really fulfilled me, God was the answer to that. And I remember saying, if I could just study the word and talk about God, I would be happy. Like if I could do whatever that is, I would be so happy. And that's why one of the things that I've always felt like a kindred spirit with you, because in a time where I was wanting to redevelop my business, you had already taken that stand. So I want to talk about that a little bit more and talk about what life looks like for you in embodying your faith in the business that you do, because society's done a lot of things, and one of the things that it's done is condition us to believe that we are supposed to put our faith into a little box, put it on a shelf at home, and leave it there when you go out into the world, right? But we both know that's not really the case.
Yeah, this is something I am super passionate about because God created us. He put us here with the gifts and the ideas and the resources, right? And he does call us to use those gifts and use those passions and to live life to the full as well. And part of that is in service to others. I think of the parable of the talents and
Yes.
how like everyone is given different amounts of talents, but they're all given talents. And everyone is supposed to do something with those talents. And the person who doesn't do anything with it is the one who gets in trouble, right? So we are all called to use our talents and to multiply them, and multiplying them, like having the business is a great way to do that because you are actively going and helping other people, and that is multiplication. So as a business owner, just like ever since I decided to become a business owner, like I feel like my relationship with God has just become even more like testing and and stronger. And at the same time, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like how do people start businesses without God? I don't know how you do that because it's so much more challenging than I imagine. But deciding to transition to focus on Christians was based on that, just like talking to Christians and seeing them just sometimes struggle with the whole idea of like being seen and being bold and misunderstanding like the whole idea of like humility versus insecurity or like pride versus um being confident and and as a result not showing up as boldly as they could in their business. Like we need more people who are doing things in the Christ-centered way. So just and especially with how crazy the world is, like being able to help people be confident and yeah, you can help people and be Christ-centered and be successful and be bold because that's what God put you here to do.
Yes.
So
Yes.
uh so yeah, so I it's just it's also a time where I feel like I'm seeing more Christians like stepping up and talking about their faith. So it's a great time to join the people who are being bold about their faith and helping other people be bold about their faith. So yeah, so that's my angle is just we are meant to multiply our talents, and I want to help Christians do that and help other, spread spread the wealth.
Yes, I love that you brought up the parable of the three talents. That is actually one of my favorite parables in the Bible. You guys, if you've never read it, please do. It applies to so much of life. And it actually did help me through that process too, to realize that I was thinking very small, because I didn't realize it at first, but in reflection, I realized I was dealing from a place of fear when it came to even the idea of, you know what, I'm going to focus on Christian entrepreneurs and letting it be known that I am a Christian owned business. And I didn't, during the time when I just felt all the emotions, I didn't realize that that's what that was, that I was afraid. And I was inadvertently being the servant who buried the money in that, right? Like buried the money, and I'm going to give you right what you gave me back, master. I protected it. I didn't realize that that's actually what I was doing because of fear, right? And that's what he says, because I knew you to be. And when I think back on that time, and I think back on where my life is now, where it's so much more fulfilling. I have so much more. I smile constantly. I cry more than I care to admit, but not sad tears. Like these are true like tears of joy, and the way that I'm just so fulfilled and full in all ways. And when I think from where I am now to where life was before that, and it was just more weight, more stress, I agree with you. And I don't know how I was doing business before without God being at the center. And I want to make it clear to you guys that there is a difference. We're not talking about if you know God or don't know God. Like, this is a next level thing that we're talking about here, right? We're not talking about going to church and doing the religious practices and steps, right? Like, we're not talking about that. We're talking about when you make the conscious choice to say, God, you are the owner of this business. I am the steward of this business, and I am taking everything that I do in my business to you and getting directions from there on what I should and should not be doing, what I should and should not pursuing. I'm going to pray through it all. I am going to be bold about my faith and let others know, not in a disrespectful way or in a way that says, I look down on you or belittle you if you don't fit within this box. It's not really about exclusion. It actually is a conversation about inclusion, and you including all aspects of you, and not being willing to shrink parts of yourself for fear of offending someone else. That's what we're really talking about here. And I just want to make sure that I really just hone in on that point, because I know when I was going through that, I didn't have a model to look at. There may be, I know now, I know there were people out there who can guide me through that. But when I was in the midst of it, I did not know. I was just trying to figure it out and just relying on the word. But I want you guys to know that too. You do not have to do it alone. The second that you start trying to seek community, that you start trying to seek other entrepreneurs who are building through faith and with God at the center, it is going to blow your mind how they just start coming out the woodworks. Like you said, like they're everywhere. And we truly are everywhere. But the world has just gotten so loud that it tends to make those voices very quiet. That's one of the main reasons why this show exists. Give a voice to those people. So I want you guys to know, yeah, you do not have to build that on your own. And when you're going through that process of building that business, whether you're starting from the ground up or you've been in business, but it's time for a rebrand, or maybe you've never actually established your brand, you know who to call. You know exactly who to call. Reach out to Salted Branding. We're going to make sure that we put all of her contact information inside the show notes, because I want you to guys to be able to directly connect with her. And make sure that you like and follow this page, because we are always going to bring you great stories like this one. Give us a thumbs up, give us a comment, because I want to know how we did, right? I want to know if you guys are really liking this content. So thank you so much, my love. I appreciate you for joining me here today. And for those of you who are watching, bye, my cherished loves.
Thank you, Lachey. This was a great time.
Thank you.